All right. Hello, all you sports fans out there in podcast land, and welcome once again to another edition of Babbling Brooks, your new favorite podcast, where I, your host Brooks, try to bring you some of today's sports news with just a little twist of my point of view. Hope you're all having a wonderful weekend so far. Doing pretty good here myself. Excited, of course, Braves getting the win last night, 6-4 up in Milwaukee. But before we go into that, a couple football notes real quick. Because believe it or not, it ain't too long till NFL season kicks off. Just about a little bit over a month away. Less than a month will be, get into the preseason. That'll be going on. Training camp starting for most teams coming up this week. The Panthers, Tuesday, I think Wednesday will be like Bryce's first full practice with the team. I've heard a lot of good things. You read about like what his teammates, what his coaches, what Panthers legends are saying, and even Steph Curry, the Panthers super fan, is excited about what Bryce Young can be. And I am too. At first, I was leaning more towards C.J. Stroud, but excited to see what Bryce Young can do. He did finally come to terms with the team, which it felt like a foregone conclusion, just a matter of when, not if, since there's not that much wiggle room when it comes to draft picks and getting signed. So getting him some money, I think it's like a $37 million contract for the next few years and $20-some million signing bonus. And he's got plenty. I'm sure he's getting some of that good endorsement money. I know, was it Body Armor? I remember when he first got drafted, Body Armor had a sign on the way into Atlanta that said, "Welcome, Bryce Young." And I assume it meant to the brand, but it was also just felt like a badly placed billboard. It's like, they're division rivals, right? Like, that was just a kind of a funny thing. But yeah, so glad to see the Panthers got him locked in. Excited to see what he could do. I think I'd be more worried about the height issue and the size issue if he had not played in the best conference in college football, the SEC. Because, it was another, maybe he's in like even the Pac-12. I mean, they're super talented. Don't get me wrong. All these major conferences, I would say Big Ten, probably the next best conference right after the SEC, just depending on the year. I mean, you can't ignore they got Michigan, Ohio State every year competing lately, trying to get in that college football playoff. But Georgia and Alabama, especially the way Georgia went in back-to-back, could compete for a third one. But Nick over there in Bama, don't want you to forget about him either. So the SEC, definitely the best conference in college football. So he comes from that. So he's playing the biggest and the best of the college football players, even though they're not the same as NFL players by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, a few of them are, but in NFL is a whole different level. So he will have to adjust. But I feel like he's got the perfect coaching staff built around him. Thomas Brown, offensive coordinator, future head coach. Jim Caldwell helping out on the offensive side. Former head coach, probably should still be a head coach. Josh McCown, potentially a future head coach, almost was a head coach before the NFL lawsuits kind of were like, "Hey man, we can't hire him, Texas. You can't hire him, Houston." So there's that. But so I'm excited about this team. The team they got around him. He's got a solid offensive line. They brought in some weapons: Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, Hayden Hurst, Jonathan Mingo, a wide receiver, coming in the same time as him as a rookie, could potentially build a special bond between those players. A reason Jonathan Mingo could be like one of those underdog guys to have a breakout rookie season, just because the rapport these two are going to build, the connection that they will have as like rookies coming out of the same conference. Of course, Mingo, a wide receiver at Ole Miss, and I've seen comparisons with him to Deebo Samuel, and just like the potential to be, he can run like a running back once he gets the ball. So that's another weapon they can use. So excited to see what that team can do. Another team causing some excitement, especially for some of my friends who are Washington Commanders fans or Washington football fans. Of course, when I was growing up, Washington Redskins. course, you can understand why they changed the name. Could be another name change coming, maybe even back to that one when you have a team with more credibility. But because it's like when you say the name now, you're not saying it racistly, but it's hard to look at that name and be like, well, that's not, I don't think you can say it's not racist. You actually have the skin in the title, but it also, like, for most people, it wasn't really associated with that. That was one reason I felt like that was like steps beyond the Braves name, because you could say the Braves is a disrespectful name. Mostly would be like going back to like Chief Nakahoma, like that was offensive. But I feel like just the name itself, Braves, isn't the same as calling a team the Redskins. Not the same level of stuff, but definitely interesting. Magic Johnson is now part of the ownership group. I saw it was a very emotional, touching interview that he was doing on the Today Show, kind of breaking down in tears. And yes, he's won with his soccer and WNBA. He's a owner of the Dodgers. They just won a World Series a couple years ago. So he's had a lot of success. Of course, won a couple championships as an NBA player. And Magic Johnson's game was a game changer. If it's not for him and Larry Bird, we might not have had the NBA of today. Because you got to remember, coming out of the 80s, man, they were barely showing NBA games. Even the playoff games were barely getting played live. Usually on tape delay. Like on primetime shit, or just too late for people to care. But when Magic went up against Larry, man, a lot of people think that saved the game. And then after that, you had a young man by the name of Michael Jordan on the rise. And that took basketball to a whole other level. But that's a whole other podcast episode. It was just kind of cool. Magic Johnson, the main owner, I believe, is Josh Harris, owner of the Philadelphia 76ers. And exciting to see what they can do. I grew up, that was my first team. Never really stuck because Washington felt just so far away. Even though I grew up in Virginia, it was the whole other corner of the state. Literally almost as far away in the state of Virginia as you can be from the capital city of Washington, D.C., right down almost in that bottom little corner, not the corner, but pretty much right there on the Tennessee line. So D.C. was actually farther drive than Atlanta. So that's why it was so easy to be a Braves fan. And I kind of just, when the Panthers came along, that became my team because it was Washington, but I would also root for Pittsburgh. Of course, we were watching that Super Bowl where Neil O'Donnell threw interceptions to wide open Cowboys. I loved watching Cordell Stewart those couple of years that he was just became Slash and just was so much fun to watch. And of course the 49ers, Jerry Rice, Steve Young combination, Dion there for a season. I also really enjoyed watching them. But Washington was really the first team because it helped that they were going to Super Bowls. The first couple of years I was aware of things. Really my sports memories, it was the Braves. And around the same time, Washington was doing pretty damn good, too. Was it Heath Schuler? Was that guy's name back in the day? But so either way, that's kind of good for them. They finally have a new owner. Dan Snyder has kind of been the albatross around that team for so long. So the vibes should get better. Of course, they do have former Panthers head coach Ron Rivera. Great head coach. And I think even before this, he was the perfect head coach for that situation because he's someone, say what you want to say about Ron Rivera, you cannot question the man's integrity. Dude is solid beyond solid. I hated to see him go as the Panthers coach, but at the same time, it was time. Sometimes you just it's time to move on, and that's what it was in that situation. Second time he's had to deal with a new owner situation. Of course, he was the Panthers head coach when Jerry Richardson had to sell the team after it came out that he had made, had been, sexually harassing women and had made some racist comments. So he had to sell the team. So Ron Rivera's been here before, but I feel this is a whole other level because it was not, Richardson was mostly beloved until the stuff came out. Whereas I don't know if Dan Snyder's, I don't know if he's ever been beloved. And if it was the early honeymoon days of him owning the team back 20-some years ago, whatever. And he did have to pay a $60 million fine showing that he had, had led a bad workplace or whatever. But, that's like, oh, cool, good. He has to pay $60 million. But for the money, the billions he just made, $60 million ain't even a piss in a bucket to Dan Snyder. So he's like, oh, yeah, whatever. Here's your change, bitch. But, like I said, then we want to do a little football real quick. But today is primarily a Braves episode. They did get the win last night in one of their old hometowns, city of Milwaukee, of course, where the Braves won a World Series with the home run king, Henry Hank Aaron, in 1957, before moving to Atlanta just a few years later when the fans were like, we're good. But the fans were out there for this one, and they got a nice little show from the Braves. Michael Soroka was on the mound. Nice, solid performance from him. Not a perfect one, but hey, man, we don't need him to be perfect with the way these guys are hitting. Just need him to navigate. He's still feel like, figuring out how he's doing, coming back from those 2 torn Achilles. Not really happened before. So great. It's just a great story with him, for him to be able to be solid, be able to stick with the club, get his second win of the season. He goes to 2-1. Because, like I said, made some mistakes, but he mostly seemed to kind of isolate those mistakes. All of his, all the mistakes that cost us, at least, coming in the first inning and the 6th inning. That was all of their runs, all 4 runs, and only in 4 of the 6 hits that Michael Soroka gave up in this game came in those innings. So you take out those 2 innings, which obviously is not how statistics work. It's not how reality works. You don't get to pick and choose reality, but in this case, we're going to do that. And we're going to say, you take those 2 innings out, Michael Soroka had a 2-hit shutout. So got left a couple little 2 available there early on. Christian Yelich, a really damn good hitter in baseball, has had to deal with some injuries last couple years. But you can't make mistakes like that to a hitter like that. So he got on base, and then William Contreras, former Atlanta Brave, you may recall, probably not, but you may recall I was upset at first when the Braves traded William Contreras as part of that deal that brought them Sean Murphy. And now I'm okay with the trade, but I still miss William Contreras because just the huge leaps and bounds that he made in just that 1 year from 2021 going into 2022, and it just felt like he was way better as a catcher. And, the hitting's been there. Him and his brother, they can fucking hit. But it seems like the catching has come along. And for what I've seen and read so far this year, it keeps doing that. He's improved even more from last year, which is no surprise to me because that's literally exactly what I said would happen, that I felt like he would continue growing as a catcher and get better. Is Sean Murphy a better catcher than William Contreras? Yes, he is. And he's been hitting better this year. But Contreras has also had a pretty damn good season himself. He was involved in 3 of their runs because he drives in Yelich in the first on his double, ends up scoring when was it Tinker or something? Winker. I was like, Tinker doesn't sound right. Winker drove him in that one, and then later on, Contreras also has another little gets on base, and Adamez, sorry. I always forget how to say his name because it looks so much like Adams. I want to say Adams, but there's an E in there. Adamez drove him home on a home run. But yeah, Contreras having a decent year. He's hitting 277. Not as good as Sean Murphy, who's hitting 290, and also scored a run in this game. Only 1 though, not 2. But it's not a matter of which catcher scores the more runs. It's which team scores the most runs. And the big reason the Braves were the team that did that scored the most runs, because their third baseman, Austin fucking Riley, just keeps eating. He was kind of hungry for a while, but he's like, man, it is dinner time, and I ain't done yet. The first Brave since Hall of Fame third baseman Eddie Matthews in 1959 to have at least 5 home runs and 13 RBIs in 4 games. 2-run home run in the third. Number 21 on the season for Austin Riley. And guess what this home run did? it solidified a Braves lead. He didn't get to give the Braves the lead for once. It felt like every other homer he hit in this little 4-game stretch, 4 games in a row with a home run, felt like most of them were either tying the game or giving us the lead. So this one, he just gives us a little extra cushion. Kind of not breaks the game open because it was still too close to call it that. But he kind of helped. He gave us a little distance. Because when Austin Riley came up to bat with Ozzie Albies on base in the 3rd inning, the Braves were only up by 1 run. That 2-run shot made it a 5-2 game. Makes you feel a little better. That little extra breathing room. They did end up, of course, giving up 2 more runs in the 6th inning on the Adamez home run. Make it 6-4. But other than that, Braves, just felt like they did a really good job of limiting the damage in this one. Soroka having some struggles, but for the most part getting out of it. It's his 2nd win on the season, 2-1 now. Just great to see him be able to work his way back, and just feel like he just is improving every start. And see more of that. It'd be great to see him lock up that spot in the rotation because we got Max Fried. Stay tuned. We'll talk more about Max Fried here in a minute. But that could be such a good rotation, going down the stretch, going into the playoffs. I feel like that's when Soroka will be really hitting his stride. The way things keep going the way they are, that'll be when he's at his best, which will be the best time to be your best, obviously, when it's all on the line. Because it's great to get wins now, but you really want to win. When all the chips are in and when the marbles are all out there, whatever, in October going into November. That's when the wins got that extra weight on them. But Soroka did make it 6 innings in this one. 6 hits, 4 runs, only walked 2. Struck out 4. So not like a monster number of strikeouts. But you like the ratio. Anytime you double the strikeouts compared to walks, I consider that a good game. Solid. Not spectacular. Soroka was not spectacular, but solid, and he got the job done. It's not all about razzle dazzle. It's not always going to be pretty, but getting the job done. And just what a great story with him, just working his way back, and he keeps doing it. A lot of guys would have given up. Might have got stuck in the minors, but not Soroka, man. Keep on trucking, dude. I hope we'll see him. He gets another chance against Milwaukee next week. Because we got this weird little stretch of playing 6 of 8 games against the Brewers. These 3 in Milwaukee. Then we have a day off, 2 games in Boston, day off, 3 games against Milwaukee in Atlanta. So the Braves doing a tour of their old stomping grounds in Milwaukee and then Boston. But Milwaukee first, of course. And some other notes from this game. Of course, Austin, man, just what a stretch after what a lot of people were calling kind of a struggle season. And I felt like he was still getting it done for a lot of times for us when we really needed him to. Wasn't like he was really coming up empty that often. But maybe it just didn't seem like he was because this damn team hits so damn well that you don't notice necessarily when someone struggles because there's always somebody else that's just slamming it. And on the season now, Riley up to 270 into this 2-for-4, 2 RBI game. Hopefully he can keep the magic going tonight up there in Milwaukee. Who else we got to talk about in this one? Of course, Soroka, great job. Talk about former Brave William Contreras going 2-for-4. He was the only Brewer with multiple hits, just like Austin Riley was the only Brave with multiple hits in this game. But all about, all this talk about the former Brave, it's easy to forget. We got our own former Brewer on the team. Orlando Arcia was not expected to be the shortstop this year. Everybody's like, yeah, he'll play some. He'll probably get traded because this Vaughn Grissom kid. And then they're like, this Braden Shoemake kid. But Orlando Arcia is like, hold on, kids. Daddy ain't going nowhere, and I ain't even old enough to be your damn daddy. So Orlando Arcia, 1 of 3, but making that one count. 2-run homer in the second gave the Braves the first lead of the game. He's like, not for you today, Austin. I'm giving us the lead today. And that's the bottom line, because Orlando 316 said so. And it's 3 home runs in the last 4 games for Orlando. Great to see. And I guess shout out was like, when he hit the home run, like, that's some Orlando's magic. And it's great because he had kind of felt like going into the All-Star break, sort of not sputtered, but definitely slowed down a little bit compared to how he was hitting to start the season when he was hitting like, 340 at one point. So he's only hitting 291, but it's kind of nice to see him inching his way back a little bit closer to the 300 mark after falling down below it there the last couple weeks. And like I said, it's nice to see him, man. Like both him and Austin felt like they've not been at their offensive best, at least going, that little stretch going into the All-Star break. So to see both of them just really awaken the bats these last 4 games has been a beautiful thing. And you love to see it. You love to see it. Some other notes. It'll be kind of a quick episode. I'm actually going to try to start doing more like along the lines of like a 30-minute episode, unless I've really got a lot to talk about, just because like a little easier for y'all to actually listen to a whole thing. We don't always have 45 minutes to an hour to listen to some crazy long-haired kid rant about shit. And I don't know why I would call myself a kid. I'll be 40 next year. What the hell? So Orlando, that was home run number 10 of the year for him. He is the 8th Brave this season to join that club. So we on a tear. Braves are on pace for 310 home runs this season, which would be a Major League Baseball team record. But doing it and being on pace for it ain't the fucking same. But still looks pretty damn good so far for this Bravos team. And I read another article about how even-keeled the Braves are and how it all goes back to Brian Snitker, which is funny. If you watch him, it's true. Like I always joke when they show Snitker during a game, he literally has the same expression, whether they're up by 10 or down by 8, whether it's a tied game. Like he doesn't look stressed out. Like he just looks like he's like just rolling with the punches. And I've said it before and I'll say it over and over again. Snitker is so important to the success of this team, and a lot of it boils down to all those damn years managing in the minor leagues, which after a certain point, he probably had given up on being a major league manager. Like it'd been so long. We've been like 30 years since Hank Aaron was like, hey man, you're an alright catcher, but you thought about being a manager. And he's, all the players he's guided through the Braves system over the years, especially this recent batch. I feel like that's why some of these guys, like Ozzie and Ronald, had that connection with him, having played under him on the way up. And he just kind of lets the guys be themselves, it seems like, keeps people in check in his own way. And it helps these guys just seem like to be a well-led team player-wise, despite all the turnover, losing Freddie Freeman, losing Dansby Swanson. It seemed like maybe that would affect this team. Even I questioned it a little bit, letting them go back-to-back years like that. But Orlando Arcia, the way he has played at shortstop, then of course, Matt Olson, his second year as a Brave, Sean Murphy getting more and more comfortable as a Bravo, like great behind the plate, great at the plate. You eat, right? So, they've found a way to make it work, and I think Ozzie is very important to that. Of course, the coaching staff underneath Brian Snitker, especially Ron Washington, important to that. And the way they've been able to ride through so many injuries. I mean, losing your top 2 aces from the previous year, a guy who competed for the Cy Young and Max Fried, Kyle Wright, won over 20 games. Neither one of them has pitched hardly any games, combined for 10? And I've said it before, but we will talk about Max Fried briefly here in a second. Let me wrap up this game. Of course, we talked about all the other ways we scored, but how about Marcell Ozuna? Normally, you wouldn't talk much about an 0 for 3 Marcell Ozuna performance, but he still had 2 RBIs. He drove in the Braves' first run after Milwaukee went up 2-0 in the bottom of the first. in the top of the second, had a sacrifice fly, driving that first run, and then had an RBI fielder's choice in the 5th inning to get the Braves' last run, make it 6-2. So great job for Marcel's. Kind of not been hitting quite as good as he was. Had a nice little 15-game hitting streak at one point after starting out the magnificent May and after that awful April that he had. Good to love the alliteration. And so great job for him getting some runs in the unconventional ways. Not helping his batting average, but you get those RBIs. I don't think Marcell Ozuna is too concerned about his damn batting average as long as it's not .071 again like it was in that awful April before mentioned. So great for him. I feel like he's due a home run, though, coming up soon. Same with Ronald Acuna. Had a rare 0-for-5 game. Did not get on base. Ended a 5-game hit streak and a 6-game on-base streak. And I think all that means is that he's about to do something incredible tonight. Like we're due an awesome Ronald Acuna appearance. Because even the games before, it felt like it was quiet. Kind of getting on base kind of stuff, but still getting it done, getting in the pitcher's head. Get him on base, man. And I don't expect 0-for-5 again. I mean, obviously it'll happen this season, but not back-to-back right now. I think he's going to get on base one way or another and try to do some damage. He's itching to steal the damn base right now. It's been a couple days. Fiending for that shit, if you will. So, not what you like to see from Ronald, but hey, man, it's you can't go 3-for-5 every damn day. You got to have some 0-for-5s in a 162 game season. Still doing incredible. Still hitting. What is he hitting? My phone logged out, of course. He's still hitting 328. Next best hitter in the league after Luis Arias. Other hitters in this game, Ozzie was 0-for-3 with a run scored after walking. Matt Olson 1-3 with a run. No strikeouts and a walk. Great to see how he has really got a lot more discipline at the plate. Still strikes out time to time. I think he had like one strikeout in this one. Actually, I didn't write it down. Yeah, just one. Everybody struck out once except for Rosario, who struck out 3 times. But I looked at it the other day, and he went from being like the league leader in strikeouts, Matt Olson, to he actually is higher in the ranks on walks than strikeouts. I think he's like number 5 on the walks list so far for the season. And for the strikeout list, last I checked, he fell to number 9. So good for him. Hit more homers, strike out less. Great combination. And let's see. Murphy 1-3, scored a run in this one. Eddie Rosario, not a great game. He's kind of feel like he's been struggling last few games. Like could potentially be in the mix to lose and start here or there, but not yet. I feel like there was like the hamstring tightness that threw him off. So he had the games off for that and just kind of getting some rhythm back. Because he's been having a pretty good season after kind of a slow start. Last year was a struggle. Only hitting 247 thanks to a lot of these more 0-for games than not lately. Still got a chance to drive that up. But I think he's got to watch out, especially with the trade deadline coming up. You got a guy like Kevin Pillar, who is a pretty solid bat sitting behind you on the bench. And then even a guy like Forrest Wall, who could potentially work his way into a game, but probably not as a starter. That'll probably be as a late inning replacement. But you never know, man. It'd be an interesting way to mix things up. Put Forrest Wall up there. Hadn't had a chance to hit yet in the major leagues, but definitely getting some steals down in Gwinett. So something to keep an eye on. And let's see, Rosario 0-4, struck out thrice. Michael Harris the second, 1-4 in this one. And overall, the team 0-3 with runners in scoring position. So not putting a lot of guys in scoring position. It helped that they only had 6 hits in this game total. Same amount as the host Brewers. But getting it done, not letting them in, not letting as many guys across the plate. And guys that helped with that, of course, you had Soroka. Gave up all 4 runs in this one, but had 4 strikeouts as well. Got his second win of the year. Ben Heller made it through an inning with a strikeout, not giving up any runs. Joe Jimenez struck out 2 in his inning, setting up Kirby Yates to get his second save of the season. Rossell Iglesias had pitched, I think it was like 22 innings the previous couple days, so he was unavailable. I hadn't seen Yates try to save, he doesn't go out there to save too many games, and one of the problems with not having full strength, usually that would be an AJ Minter situation. He is on the injured list for at least 5 more days. And Kirby Yates has done it before. He's, not really done it very much since coming back from his injuries the last couple of years. But made us a little nervous. Struck out the first 2, then walked 2. So tying runs on base, the potential winning run at the plate. But Kirby tightens up, locks it down, gets strikeout number 3. So striking out 3 guys in the inning. Yeah, even though he walked 2, still gets it done, gets the save. And Iglesias gets the day off. I would assume he would be available tonight. But maybe the Braves can make it interesting to drive up the score a little bit. But we're going to need to provide some offense more than likely in this game. It will be the Major League debut of Alan Winans. He was called up to the big club today. And so they sent down Seth Elledge, who had just come back up, still has not pitched in the majors in a couple years. Came up but didn't get a chance to pitch. So he goes back down. And also because Alan Winans was not on the 40-man roster, which is like the pool of players that, you can pull up the easiest from your AAA team. I think it's 25 on the regular roster, and then the 40-man roster is just guys that are immediately available for you to call up. Sometimes that, they'll move injured list guys around to kind of accommodate that. And so Eli White did have to get released to make room on the 40-man roster for Alan Winans, but his season was done anyway. And he was one of those looked like someone could potentially contribute some to the team. But, he kind of just got some play when Michael Harris II was injured earlier. But once Michael Harris II came back, Eli White wasn't really, there was not room at the end for Mr. White. So he went down to AAA. And he was doing pretty damn good. He was hitting the ball well, running the base paths, getting it done. But I think he tore his labrum in his shoulder. So he's probably done for the year. Best of luck to him. Hopefully he's able to come back, do something soon. And somebody that is trying to come back and do something soon, Max Fried made his 3rd rehab appearance, his 2nd with the AAA Gwinett club. And it wasn't great. I mean, not terrible. But a lot of this, I was reading, it's weird to say, it's results in some ways don't really matter in these situations. What the team is really worried about is just mechanics, watching him, and how's he feeling. During, and how's he feeling after, immediately, and then the next day. So there'll be some follow-up. It seems to me like he would need one more start. There is a chance, depending on the circumstance, he still could get called up, even though he probably does need one more. Honestly, I think a lot of that could boil down to tonight's game with Alan Winans on the mound, because if he shows the potential to be able to maybe make a couple more starts, even if he's not has to look like an ace, it just doesn't look too long. It looks like he knows what the hell he's doing a little bit. Then maybe they're let's let this kid have another start. But if he looks terrible, if he's dog shit out there, which I don't think he will be, I'm just saying, if he looks bad and they're okay, this guy's not ready, let's send him back down, then maybe Max is more likely to start. But I think it would be best to probably give him one more, because even though they say results don't matter, you'd like to see him be a little more successful with these AAA hitters, because it's not going to be easier going against Major League hitters. But he did give up 2 home runs in 3 1/3 innings pitched. Seemed to kind of struggle a little bit with his fastball command, but it takes some figuring out to get that stuff just right, because it's not like he's oh, it's just simple, just throw the ball. It's not quite that easy, or everybody would do it right. So you got to, just so many mechanics go into it. There's so much different comfort factors, rhythm factors, and when you don't throw the ball for at all for a month or so, then you're going to get out of sync a little bit. And especially when you're trying to throw a ball in the 90s, there's a lot of little things you do just slightly off, and the ball could be in a whole other different place than where you intend it to be. So you got to get that feel back a little bit. But he did pitch, made 65 pitches, struck out 5, didn't walk anybody, so I like that. 6 hits, 3 runs, and like I said, I would think he needs like one more rehab start before they bring him back to the big club, especially since the Braves, it just doesn't feel like they need to rush or be desperate about it. But I believe it's like the middle game of the next Brewers series is the game to watch. Or no, not the middle one. That's Bryce Elder. Must be the last one. Sorry, look at this. No. Clicked on that. I hate when it does this. Yeah, it's undecided on the 29th. So a week from today will be either I would assume it'd be like Winans getting another chance or Max Fried coming back. I mean, there always is, AJ Smith-Shawver, Jared Schuster. I don't think they're necessarily ready to bring them back right now. And I like what they've done through the first few months of this season. Now as we get into the final little stretch, but giving the young guys a chance. So not only get them a chance to get a taste of the big leagues before sending them back down to Gwinett and AAA, get a little extra seasoning, and they go back to Gwinett with that experience of having seen big league hitters, and now they get a chance to work on it in a lower pressure situation with way less people focusing on all your fuck ups. Because you're going to have some of those. It's a rough game sometimes. So, like that, you're able to see what you got, and you can use that, and maybe, they have that experience, and then you've seen them in person. You see sort of how they respond to it, and okay, let's keep that in mind for later in the season. So, a lot of debuts, a lot of first times for the Braves this year, and look good. There's been some rough spots, but the great thing about it is this is one of the better lineups to do that for, because 1 through 9 can provide offense for you. So that can maybe take some of the pressure off of a young pitcher. He's not as young as some of these other guys. He's been kind of bouncing around the minor leagues for a while, toiling a little bit. Drafted by the Mets 2017, only a $10,000 bonus recipient, so not a big money kid. Not a lot expected, but he's toughed it out so far and getting his chance tonight. So I'll hopefully do good, because I think that gives us a chance to be a little more patient with Max Fried, because it'd be nice to see Max get one more start, get at least 75 pitches, and maybe show a little more command, because you want him to, be really ready to go against the big league guys. But at the same time, you're not looking for perfection, and that's a great thing about this team. You don't feel like you need perfection. You get a chance to work on shit a little bit more. And, it's especially nice when you have an 11.5 game lead. The Marlins and the Phillies both lost last night, so they are both 11.5 games behind the Braves. The Mets also lost last night. They're 18 games back, y'all. That's basically insurmountable. It's not totally insurmountable, but we got to lose, we'd have to lose 18 more than them, and I don't see that happening the way the season's going. The curious stuff will be see what happens with the Mets. Do they try to, are they going to have a fire sale when the trade deadline comes around? Steve Cohen don't mind spending money, but probably not, for a team that's 20 games out. I mean, damn, are they even in the wild card race? The Mets are they're 6.5 out of the last wild card spot, so they're in that technically, but not by a lot. And the Braves by far have the largest division lead. It's not even close. It's 5.5. Tampa and Baltimore over Toronto. Minnesota's 2 games up on Cleveland. Texas is 3 games up on the Astros. The Brewers only a 1.5 games up on the Reds, and that's thanks to us. And the Reds got a win last night. They've won 3 in a row after going on a little bit of a losing stretch there. So good to see them bounce back, because look what happened to the Pirates. The Pirates were first place. They went on a losing streak, and they never recovered. Now they're 11.5 games out of first place at the bottom of the National League Central. The Dodgers, 3 games up on the Diamondbacks and the Giants. Both of them on small little losing streaks. But the Braves got a new one going. They've won 2 in a row. The Phillies, who were kind of streaking in our direction, they have now lost 3 in a row. So you gotta love it. And the Marlins, who were looking like the surprise team in the National League East, looking, like they could be doing pretty well. They've lost 7 in a row, lost 8 of their last 10. Luis Arraez is definitely has a low, average gone down lately, which it's tough to hit. It's tough to hit 400. It's beyond tough. I mean, if it wasn't tough, somebody would have done it since like 1940 or whenever it was Ted Williams did it in the 40s. So he's at 373, so he still leads the league by about 50 points over Ronald Acuna. So still pretty damn good, but not it seems like as he's kind of slowed up, so has the team. And that's totally fine with me. And it would be kind of cool to see someone hit 400, but not want someone in the division unless it's us. But yeah, the Orioles we're on a little bit of a winning streak, but now the Rays got the win, so they're not in first place anymore. It's a weird tie because the Rays have somehow just played more games than most teams, like 4 more games, and the Orioles are like 61-40, while the Orioles are tied with them at 59-38. So, but they have it's not technically a tie, so the Orioles are technically .04 points ahead of them because they're 608 winning percentage and Tampa's 604. So technically, Baltimore has the edge there. But at the end of the year, everyone will have played the same amount of games. So that'll make it a little bit easier to decide who is first place when it comes down the stretch. But great to see these Braves, man. Keep winning on the road. They actually have a better record. Not as many wins, but a better loss record. They have less losses, 5 less losses on the road than they do at home. The Braves are 31-14 away from home, 32-19 in the friendly confines of Truist Park, 63-33 on the season. And there's going to be some struggles. We've seen some of that the last few games, but just this team just don't get too high with the highs. They don't get too low with the lows. Just keep on doing. Just get some sand in our toes. But tonight, Braves, of course, take it on Milwaukee again. I've got to decide because I realize there's a concert I kind of want to go to. Swamp Dogg is performing at the Earl. Really, really talented performer. I've listened to him the last few years. I got into him when he did a song with John Prine, but he's been around for a long time in the background. He likes to call himself the original SDOGG. That's what they need him and Snoop Dogg on a song together. That'd be pretty badass. Because it's kind of like this weird combination of, it's like a mismatch of like funk, blues, country, and folk that he does. I guess is one way to describe it. It could go a lot of ways with how you describe it, but it's good music. But I'm also tired. And I got to work kind of early tomorrow, so let me see. Because I want to watch the Braves, especially because it's actually a Fox game, so I get to watch it on my TV as opposed to trying to find an illegal stream on my fucking laptop. But having said all that, I'm going to get on out of here. See, after I talk about who's on the mound, of course, tonight will be Alan Winans going up against Adrian Hauser will be pitching for the Brewers in this one. He is 3-2 on the year, 3.79 ERA, 39 strikeouts. The one thing I really like about Alan Winans, looking at his minor league stats, and yeah, they're just minor league stats, it's not the same, but he does have 89 strikeouts compared to only 25 walks so far this season in 102 innings pitched. So, you definitely like that ratio. So hopefully he can bring some of that to the big show up there in Milwaukee. And the Braves can come away with a win. Get the kid the first win of his MLB career and his first MLB appearance. Let's make it special. And thank you for listening to this special episode that, of course, went 14 minutes longer than I was saying I thought it would go. But anyway, hey, if you've listened now still, thank you. Appreciate it. Keep listening. Keep coming back for more. Babbling Brooks will just get better. I promise you that I'm going to keep doing it. And it won't get worse. I mean, at least not usually. Occasionally, it can be a dud here or there. I can't hit 400 either all the time. So, hope y'all have a great day. Go Braves, go Panthers, go Hawks, baby. Peace out.